Hey, this is John McGehee. I'd like to welcome Scott Gendron, Site Director, Mallinckrodt Pharmaceuticals. JMC Industrial Products, my company, is a manufacturer's rep organization located in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And one of the products that we rep is ChlorTainer secondary containment vessels, like in my background right here. It's a tool used quite often for process safety. Scott, as a site director, what kind of algorithm do you have to go through in order to ensure that your site is as safe as possible?
Yeah, well, John, thanks for having me on. First off, I'm pleasure to be here, and always happy to discuss our company's continued commitment to ensuring that we are operating at the highest level of process safety for our employees and for the community. And as you mentioned, several years back, we were evaluating our options in regard to 1-ton containers, which, of course, your product line, the ChlorTainer product line, addresses, and really found out there were not a whole lot of options for those kind of vessels, even though they're found all over the country and commercial and municipal applications. Yeah, so this is not a unique issue, not a unique risks in regard to the use of these container closures. They're used extensively in all those arenas I just mentioned. And our company in particular was saying, well, what are the options we have to ensure that that what's inside these containers stays inside, and then if it were to have a breach of the container closure, which happens from time to time, what are our options for ensuring that the materials inside don't harm any of our employees or the public? And really found out there's just a few options. If you are running at a facility that's continuously manned, oftentimes they'll have an emergency response team or something of that nature that is trained to repair or fix these containers if they develop a leak. And, that involves those response teams putting on oxygen and protective clothing and having specialized tools. We were not very happy with that option because, number one, we can't always ensure that we'd have those folks here all the time. And also, whenever you're putting people in harm's way, there are associated risks with that. So that wasn't a very attractive option to us. Another option was to place the containers in an area that could be ventilated with large, exhaust fans that could feed into some type of scrubber or catalytic converter or something along that nature to neutralize the material inside of the container, inside of the 1-ton containers. Those are extremely expensive, very complicated in terms of controls and motors and moving parts and et cetera, et cetera. And then the third option we found was your solution, like the ChlorTainer solution, which is a very simple mechanical full containment solution for the container, for the 1-ton container, so that if it does develop a leak for whatever reason, which can happen, that with no human action required, you've got full containment of whatever material is inside of the 1-ton container. So, right, super beneficial in that requires no human response. Right, it's passive. It's a passive system, not heavily instrumented. So there are few pressure indicators and gauges and things, but by and large, it's a mechanical system, very simple. Not a lot of maintenance required. And so that's ultimately what we chose for the site.
Yeah, it's interesting that this is an option, ChlorTainer, that allows you to attach SCADA to it, a scale, load a cylinder, close the door, and it's going to just pretty much take care of itself. Options
and that's another that's another option you mentioned, and that's apart from the process safety side of this, we chose that same option to incorporate a scale So we also get real time, which we already had in place, right? We already had a scale in place. But the great thing about this is we keep our scale and we add full containment of the vessel so that anytime, day or night, if a leak develops, the leak's contained. We still have to take actions to mitigate that leak, but we're doing it on our time frame with no risk to the employees or the public, and we have time to plan our response and do it in a way that we can ensure that whatever's got out of containment can be safely mitigated at that point.
Do you think that the comfort level of your operators in any site, when you improve safety measures of any kind, the level of comfort with an operator, do you gather that was raised that level of comfort?
Yeah, well, I think if you gave any employee the option of, hey, if a leak develops, you'll have to implement emergency procedures, don some type of personal protective equipment, evacuate the area, establish a perimeter, call the appropriate emergency response departments in your community, the state police, the fire department, or have full container closure, have full containment, and essentially, yeah, sure, it's still an incident, but it's an incident that is going to be orders of magnitude less than what I just described in the first instance. Any employee of any company is going to prefer that, and that's why really that first option, quite honestly, is what most large chemical plants, manufacturers already have emergency response teams in place, and so oftentimes they are reluctant to invest in engineering solutions like this. But I believe that the best what I would call the standard of excellence for this type of 1-ton container process safety mitigation is an engineering control that prevents the leak from ever getting to your employees or to the general public or to the environment to begin with. So complete containment from the get-go is the gold standard.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Also, when that gas, should a cylinder fail inside of ChlorTainer, the vessel, ChlorTainer vessel, sequesters that gas, and it doesn't go to waste. It goes into process just like you did at the same rate you were using.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So if we were to have a leak, we depending on, and this will vary from manufacturer and site to site, but you don't necessarily have to let the gas go to waste. There are very easy ways to redirect the flow of that gas. Even though you've lost primary containment, you still have secondary containment. And as part of the mitigation of the incident, you could actually use the gas in your process until it's been completely evacuated from the ChlorTainer. And then at that point, when you've got all the gas removed, you can either pull vacuum on it or do a variety of other things. So yeah, instead of in the entire container closure going to waste, you're right, you can reclaim the gas for its intended purpose.
Well, Scott, I definitely appreciate your perspective on process safety, site safety. Appreciate your time to spend with us here at JMC Industrial Products, the company that represents ChlorTainer in Louisiana and in Texas. So, Scott, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for being with us. And maybe in an upcoming podcast, we'll have a discussion regarding municipalities utilizing ChlorTainer and secondary containment. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Appreciate the opportunity to be on, and appreciate all the products that you guys are bringing to the market.
Thank you.